Hello, everybody. I'm Al-Fahmiri, Community Ambassador of the QA TechTalks. It's a community based startup that's mainly focused on QA talks, global speakers, and inspiring events. Today, and following the QA Talks UK and Europe edition Global Summit event, happy to invite with us Oumayma Ltaief, to discuss a very important subject in the software lifecycle, which is unit tests. What is that? Who is responsible for it? Why? All right, Sam, do we have enough? How to design this? Why invest so much? So many questions that will be answered in this presentation. But before we start, could you please, Oumayma, introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Ulfa, for the invitation. My name is Oumayma Ltaief, and I'm a software engineer specified in developing JavaScript-based applications. I have worked with Angular JS, Angular framework, and Node.js mainly. Today, I'm going to share with you my vision about unit tests as a developer. So let's start. I have prepared a small presentation to to clarify the subject. Let's go for it.
Yes, share it with
I'm
us.
going to share my screen. Okay, so let's start. What are unit tests? So unit test as for developers' involvement for software testing quality. Our agenda will start with defining what are unit tests, why do we really need to write unit tests. Then we are going to proceed to discover how to make a good unit test, what makes a good unit test, and we'll end with a small unit test sample. So let's go for it. What are unit tests? I'll start with a small storytelling for a developer life casual day. So me as a developer, mainly I think about writing functional code, deliver codes in deadlines, and avoid receiving bug notes from QA, since we have our dear QA specialist Alpha here. But what happens if a bug appears in the a process of delivery of an application? So me as a developer, I'll be sad. We say like that testers will be happy because there is a famous saying that developers build code, QA break code. But how do I really see the solution to such case is it should be the developer and QA cooperation. So we should cooperate to have the best code ever. So the question here is for me as a developer, how can I involve myself to have the best code resistance to bugs appearance before code delivery? And for a QA, what's the minimum guarantee that the code is unbreakable? The solution here is unit tests, and the cooperation will be a help to understand better writing of scenarios, because when you see a lot of bug reports from QA, you start to learn how to intend your test the maximum to have a lot of coverage of all cases of all possible cases in a daily method code. So let's start. What are unit tests? Unit tests is a way of testing a smallest piece of code that we call unit. It's done during the development process by the software developers themselves, and it isolates written code to test and determine if it works as intended or not. So let's start with the small development cycle sample. The starting point here is to write a method. So I'm writing a method code. Then I'm going to add a unit test to that method that covers all scenarios, all possible scenarios of my method. Depends on the conditions, the cases that I have. Then I'm going to run the unit test. If it passes, then I'm going to add it to my test suite cases as a reference for next features development. But if it fails, Then I'm going to write some code fixes. Usually the code fixes are some bugs detected for my method, but sometimes it could be an error in the unit test code itself. It's normal when you start to write unit tests as um, uh, starting point. So you will need to learn much and much about how to write good unit tests. So that's normal. Once we fix the errors, we are going to run unit tests again. If it fails again, so we need to revisit our code, fix again. Then once the code unit test result passes, we are going to add it to our test unit as the reference for next features. So that's it. Let's move on now to answer the question, why do we really need to write unit tests? Unit tests offers a lot of benefits to a developer, to a product at the end. So it makes the process more agile. When you add more and more features to a software, you sometimes need to change all design and functionality. But changing already tested code is both risky and costly. If we have unit tests in place, then we can proceed for creating changes in our app confidently. Then it improves the code quality. Unit tests help developers to identify the smallest defects that might be present in the code units before they go further for integration testing. It exposes the edge cases and makes you write a better code. Since the code that you write is divided into modules, it becomes reusable and with a reduced complexity. It facilitates changes and simplifies code integration. Unit tests allow developer to refactor code or upgrade system libraries to a later version and make sure tested code units still work correctly. So it reduces possible defects in the newly developed features and minimize bugs appearance when changing an existing functionality. Later testing of the application during the integration process is easier due to the verification of the individual units. One of the major points for the developer here is to make debugging easier and quicker. Unit testing helps simplify the debugging process. If a test fails, then only the latest changes made in the code need to be debugged. Easy. And the main point here for our dearest QA is to help finding software bugs early. When unit tests are written correctly, many bugs can be found at the software construction stage, which prevents the transition of these bugs to next stages. This brings benefits to end users who don't really have to deal with a buggy product. And the last point is that unit tests reduces testing costs and time. Since the bugs are found early with unit tests, bug fixes cost and time is very reduced. Just imagine the cost of a bug found during an application release. You will have to investigate the root issue and then proceed to fix it. That sounds really tiring and a waste of time and effort. But all these benefits can be result of a good unit test. So let's discover together what makes a good unit test. So for me, a good unit test should be with five mainly characteristics. So let's discover them one by one. The very first point and the most important point for me as a developer is unit test should be written along with code building. I can make like 100 underlines to this characteristic. I believe that unit test should be a main part of a code unit development phase. The more code you add without unit tests, the more paths you create for possible undetectable errors. So I strongly encourage every developer to adopt unit testing first, coding second approach. Then a good unit test should be readable. The purpose of unit test should be clear. A good unit test tells a story about some behavioral aspect of an application. So it should be easy to understand which scenario is being tested. And if the test fails for any reason, it's easy to address the problem. A unit test should be also reliable. Unit test should fail only if there's a bug in the application under test. It should be a way of verifying a functionality, but to do so, it should not be written just to cover method calling. In such case, code is covered really okay, good. We have good coverage, but it's a fake coverage, and avoid such use, because it's useless to have unit tests that that cover a method just for a fake coverage. That OA, we have a good test involved. Bugs will never be detected through a fake coverage, so it should be really reliable. Unit tests should be fast and efficient. Developers write tests so they can repeatedly run them and check that no bugs have been introduced in the application. If unit tests are slow, developers are more likely to skip running them with the time. So we need really to have efficient unit tests running to continue using them with the time. And last but not the least, unit tests should be truly unit. Unit, these tests should be checking the smallest piece of your code independently from other code parts. It should not access the network resources, databases, file systems, etc., to eliminate the influence of external facts. So unit is really isolated during the test. So let's go now to a unit test sample. I've prepared a small code sample here. So this is our method. We have a method written in TypeScript for an Angular application. We call this class a pipe in Angular context. It's a total table items pipe class with a single method transform. So we have here the documentation of this method. This method will count the total of a given array of numbers. It will receive as a parameter the table items. It's an array of numbers, and it will return the total items count result. So if we introduce an array with 1 and 2, it should return 3. Let's see now what unit test code will look like for this method. So this is the method unit test. It's really understandable. We should not really be professionals to understand such code. We find here the keyword describe. It's what we call test suite. So this will describe all test cases for this unit for the total table items pipe. We have here the very first test case. It should create an instance. We mean by creating an instance that our class is instantiatable correctly. So we expect that it will be truthy, so instantiatable. Next, we are going to cover the transform result method. So we have here another test. It should count total of a table of numbers. So we're going to use our pipe with the method transform, and we are going to give it a table of numbers. So here 1, 2, 3, and we're going to have the total count in a variable here, and we are going to expect from our test that total count will be equal to 6. So 1 plus 2 plus 3, 6. If this method is correct, it will return the correct result and the test will succeed. Otherwise, we'll have a failure and we have to revisit our method here to fix what's the issue. Let's move on next to another advanced method. We have written here a method for another pipe. It's a play winner pipe, same always with Angular application. So this method will detect a play winners. It will receive two parameters. So player A, a player with a list of scores. The scores here will be an array of numbers, and then a player B with the same list of scores but with different values. It will return a play winner detection message with winner's name. So let's see here. We are going to use the pipe that we have seen in the previous method. So the total table items pipe to calculate what's the total of all scores for each player. So each player here, we have player A with the total scores and player B with total scores from the attribute scores. And then we are going to decide who's the winner by this condition. So just to clarify here, we are supposing that we have a winner, we should have a winner. There is no equality in this game. So we have here one condition with two possible values, what two possible results. The if player A total score is superior than player B total score, then player A should be the winner. So we will display player A's name has won. Otherwise, though, then player B is the winner. So we're going to display player B name has won. Let's see now what the unit test method will look like. So we have, as we can see here, it's a bit advanced from the previous unit test code, but it will describe all the test cases, all best possible test cases in our method. So as a start, we are going to check the instantiation that it will happen successfully for this class, for the play winner pipe class. And then we have combining tests in one single test suite, which will determine the play winners. So as we can see here, we have two scenarios to cover for our transform method. If the player A is the winner, then we are going to judge that A is the winner. Otherwise, B is the winner. Let's focus now on the first condition. So we see here a test case for A being the winner. So it should detect that player A is the winner. We have defined two players. Player A, he's Peter with scores 6 in the first round, 7 in the second round, and 3 in the third round. Then player A is Mike with scores 5, 3, 6. It's clear here that Peter is the winner, so we should expect from pipe running on the transform method, receiving player A as the first value, player B as the second value, that it will return Peter has won. Let's see the else condition here. This is the else condition in the TypeScript ES6 format. We should detect that player A is the winner. We have defined two new players here. Player A, she's Sophia with scores 4, 1, 5. Then player B, she's Lydia with scores 6, 4, 3. And we are going to run again the unit test with on the method transform with player A and player B, and it should return that Lydia has won. Simple. So let's see what's the result of running our unit test. Just to clarify here, I have I run the unit test with the Karma server. For running unit tests, usually you need one server plus one software engine. So here I have Karma and Jasmine. You can use any tool for unit testing. There is a lot in the internet. Uh, it's a choice. It's just a choice to make. So this in this part we can see here the test coverage summary. All unit tests that have been launched in this application, so in the Angular sample application, as we can see here that I have 10 unit tests written. All of them are with success sign, so this is good. We have the coverage summary here. All my statements are 100% covered. All my branches, what I mean by branch is all conditions in this application are covered. All my functions are covered, and all my lines are covered. So I can rely on on this test summary to continue developing next features, next methods in the application very confidently. In this part, I can see test execution report from Karma here, and this is really human readable. As we can, as I said before, that unit test should be readable. It should be readable in their code, and it should be readable in the description of test suites and test cases. So you can really easily understand what's the context of this test. So in the play winner pipe, We have to determine who's the player winner. We should detect that player B is the winner, player A is the winner. It's really easy to understand. So that's it, guys. I hope this lesson was clear. This workshop was clear. Thanks for the attention. And Alpha, do you have any questions?
Thank you. It's very clean. I have some questions.
Hmm.
For example, sometimes we often hear that we can replace unit tests with end-to-end tests or other types of tests. What do you think about that?
Hmm. Okay. Uh, just to clarify, unit tests are also automated. So like we see here, a message from Chrome. Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. But there is a difference. Unit tests are really tests of low level of an application. If you let's assume you are running a test on Cypress. It's an end-to-end tool, very famous. If you run this, if you run a test scenario to detect a bug, trying to detect a bug, it's really difficult to detect bugs with Cypress, because Cypress end-to-end testing are testing for special scenario. You can't really detect bugs, functional bugs or bugs in methods really easily via end-to-end tests. Unit tests comes to really detect what are the smallest possible issue in your method that can't be really detectable easily in an end-to-end scenario, in an advanced scenario. So you will really cover a unit, smallest piece of your code that you can next combine to have the integration test, to combine to have a complete functionality with all your code pieces.
Mhm.
So it really helps. Just that's the condition here. Sorry, Alpha. The condition is that your unit test should be really good, like we describe it with the 5 characteristics. You should really write unit tests when you finish a method. So each method of your application is really reliable with all test cases. You can build next levels of your app really confidently.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. It's
Mhm.
what's the difference between code coverage and code and quality?
Oh, okay. That's a good one. um, In fact, test coverage is the coverage of all your application cases, let's say. But we cannot deny that test coverage will show you some points of quality in your app. For example, if it will work slowly, you should detect that there is some problem, some point of your application that should be improved. It will show you there we find a lot of software unit testing based in the internet that will show you what are your dead variables, issues in uh, the slowness. It can be detectable, but unit tests are not mainly mentioned or used to detect what's your code quality. To detect the code quality, you usually use another tools. For me, I use SonarCube. It's really very efficient to detect what's your code quality level. It will give you another code snippet suggestions for each part of your code where you can enhance the performance, enhance the good practice using, but not really for unit tests. Unit tests will give you the correct output for all testing cases that you have in your code. That's it. I hope
Okay.
I answered your
Yes,
question, Alpha.
it's clear. Yes. The last one, if you can give us examples of bugs detected by the unit tests, functional or in the code, or I don't know.
Okay, I can give you an example in my mind now. Um, for example, for a method running on a table, let's say, a lot of times you don't really focus on that your table should be defined. I faced this problem before, and I wasn't really intended to think about it if the unit test wouldn't fail. So if my array is really defined and it has some some values. I'm going to move on next to next filling values. But imagine that your table is not in your code. The table efficiency or definition is not checked, is not covered. If you try running unit test with this array without being defined, it will fail. It will show you that your array is not already defined. Go and fix this case. So you need to write the good code code statement to cover that your array is well and fit defined. Otherwise, if you don't write such case, you can't really go further. That's it.
Okay, uh, it's okay for me. I think it's the end of this presentation. I just wanna thank you for this very interesting talk and presentation. I hope your advice and recommendation will be helpful for developers, and see you soon in other talk. I
Thanks,
hope so.
Ulfa. Thanks a lot for the invitation and best coding.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Goodbye, everybody.
Ciao.